Hey everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Spectrum podcast. Today we're going to be talking about a program, but it is quite a legend among all the ambitious high schoolers all around the world, the Pioneer Academics. So maybe you've heard of it, maybe you've done it, or maybe you are even doing it right now. But not a lot of people know about where it started, how it started, and who stood behind the idea of including all these high schoolers all around the world and trusting them with real university level research. And today, I'm accompanied by the person that didn't just believe in this idea, but also created a global platform around it. Let's all welcome Matthew Jaskol, the founder of the Pioneer Academics.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, we are extremely excited to have you here today with us. I'm pretty sure everyone is also a little bit nervous to have you here because
Oh gosh.
you, honestly, you have such an impact on our young minds, on the students, on our generation especially. And so before we start talking about Pioneer, I would like to get into a little deeper. Let's rewind a little bit.
Sure.
So I've also researched about your background, about of course. And I've researched and I saw that you were on a total different career path before Pioneer. So you were more in tech, innovation, education. But so my first question would lead to that. What was the moment of realization that led you to create Pioneer Academics? Was there like something that pushed you to it? And was there something missing in the world that you felt it had to be built from scratch?
It's a great question. And when you're an entrepreneur, when you're building an organization, you often get that question of like, what was your light bulb? What
Yes.
was your aha moment? I didn't have one. Can't.
Really?
Yeah, because I think a lot of that is a little bit overdone in how people talk about, some big idea, or often the orthodoxy is to say, look for a gap in the market, look for a pain point. I don't think a lot of things actually work out that way. The development of Pioneer Academics actually was a juxtaposition of a couple different things that were coming together
Really?
at the time. So I had actually finished graduate school. I was living in China.
Really? That's
Yes.
interesting.
I was there for about 20 years. That's kind of another long
That's
story.
a lot.
It was off and on. So I was there and then I did graduate school and then I went back for a while. And I think so. So I think there's a little bit of a genesis in my own thoughts
Mhm.
about learning Chinese, believe it or not,
Uh-huh.
because I thought I took, foreign language courses and I thought, okay, well, you have to learn the foreign language and then immerse yourself in the environment. And I did a study abroad program in China, and I really felt like I was learning in a classroom in China the same way I was doing it in college in America. It's kind of like you're sitting in a classroom. I'm like, I'm in Beijing. Why am I sitting in a classroom? So after I graduated college, I went back to teach English and culture, and I went to a place that had very, very few foreign people. It was not far from Beijing. We joke, it's a little town of 11 million people called Tianjin.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
And I was basically trying to say, what do I need to do to learn this language? So I actually went out and worked very hard to have the courage to talk to people in the market and try to, buy things and in China at the time.
Practice it.
Yeah, if you could speak any Chinese, they were like, if you could say hello, they're like, oh my God, speak Chinese. And they
Because it's honestly a hard language to
it
learn.
is a hard language, but that sort of self-directed thing that said, what is my goal? My goal is not to take a test.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is actually to be able to be fluent in Chinese.
Yeah, to be free in communication.
Yes, exactly. And so I think that was sort of a genesis of things for me to say, like, what if education is not about passing a test?
Mhm.
Okay. But then later, I did do work in consulting and a couple other things. I started an online travel company. So I was doing a number of different things, but I kept getting gravitated back towards this question of education
Mm-hmm.
and this sort of idea of like, instead of saying, oh, there's a gap in the market, what we need is research.
Yes.
The sort of sense of, what if you were able to find a way to let some of these really powerful, really excited, ambitious students pursue something where the drive was motivated by their internal direction to kind of to pursue something they're excited about doing.
Yes.
Same way I wanted to study Chinese. Why? Because I wanted to like live there and kind of suck up what it's like to be there, right? So
Honestly.
that was a lot of what it was. There were a couple things that came together. One was that I was noticing that there were a lot of students abroad who were outstanding students and were in a very kind of rote learning system. And they didn't have a chance to kind of really explore their interests. Another thing was that in America, I was working with a lot of colleges on some different projects. And these colleges, a lot of the administration or the professors would say, like, high school students don't really do college level work anymore. Right?
Yeah.
In the US, it was like you do the AP.
Yeah.
And the AP test is boring.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it's college level, let's say economics, and you have to learn everything and answer everything on a test. Couldn't it be more interesting if we gave students the opportunity to do what they do like as a college junior where you have your own independent
but
study?
in high school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in high school, right? And so you get two benefits of that. One is you get students who have never unleashed their interest to that level. And number two, you get to really show what they can do. And if they do really well, they can stand out more than, what they write in an essay that their mothers looked at and their consultants looked at and all that sort of stuff.
For sure.
So that was the general idea.
For sure. I totally agree with you that there was like kind of a gap and a need for research for high schoolers because I as a high schooler, I'm here to tell you that we are invested in this. We are excited for research and for sure something that all of the high schoolers that want to do research know about Pioneer and know that it is the big thing right now. And so it would lead to my second question also. So Pioneer Academics has students from over 170 countries, if I'm not wrong.
So we have applicants from about 98 countries and students from about 54 different countries.
Oh, that's a lot. But so all of them have different types of cultural backgrounds. They have different types of belief systems. They all speak in different languages. And my second question would be, what were the toughest early challenges in making Pioneer global as it is right now? And how did you protect the quality as well as the integrity of the program while also reaching students in such dramatically different contexts as were mentioned?
So I think that we were really focused on how do we create this experience where students would drive their interest, right? And another thing that we were really thinking about was how exciting it was that technology now allowed not only a student to talk with a professor, but a student to meet other really high caliber students around the world. So it was always built into our mission. I would say, our social mission actually is to transcend barriers to education that are both geographic and socioeconomic. So that was always part of our goal. But I would say one of the challenges, as you said, was you have students with lots of different levels, lots of different languages, lots of different backgrounds. So what we did was actually, first of all, we kind of have a minimum standard. You have to be able to speak and communicate in English. You have to be able to write and read and really be at a high level with that. But then beyond that, we were interested in creating a global standard. So rather than saying, okay, this student has a professor from Berkeley and they're in Kazakhstan, and this student has a professor from Amherst College and they're in Canada. And those are going to be, maybe the student in Kazakhstan is studying computer science and the student in Canada is studying philosophy. Those sound like completely different experiences, right?
Yeah.
So we actually went about spending a lot of time saying, even at the beginning, how do we create quality? How do we create a uniform level of standards and then oversight that makes sure that everybody who experiences this institute has a uniformly high level experience? So that starts out in admissions. We had 6,400 applicants last year.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. And of those, we interviewed 5,000 plus. It's a lot of interviews.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that even colleges don't do so much interviews.
Colleges don't really do many interviews at all anymore, but we're trying to find students who are going to be able to function in this area, be able to write and read and communicate really well.
Yeah.
We also want to see who's lit up, you know? We can have a great student, but they're really just kind of trying to say, I got the research thing in. We want those students who are excited about pursuing something, changing the world a little bit, making a mark.
Not just for a college application.
Right, not just for a college application. So there's the admissions piece of it. There's a lot then we do with students when they get into the program. So a student in the institute who is coming from a rural part of Kazakhstan will have enough background if they can get the basic communication down. Their communication is really strong. Their academics are really strong. We are going to support that student to be able to do research through a whole level of mentorship outside of the professor. That they'll have a cohort advisor and a lead cohort advisor and a whole bunch of coaching in different aspects to meet them where they are and get them to the level where they're doing undergraduate level work.
Yeah.
So these are those things that we really try to do is say we want to be able to help every student, regardless of where they are, what they're studying, where their professor is, to have a uniformly high quality experience.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure that you are actually smashing your goals because truly you have reached so many different students all around the world. And that would also lead to my next question about the GPSI program that you have also mentioned. So, who doesn't know there's a Global Problem Solving Institute from Pioneer Academics too, and I was also the part of it. And I'm also going to be talking from my own experience. It was an unforgettable experience, honestly. It was life-changing, and it was an amazing research opportunity too. So, what also inspired this expansion, and how is the GPSI program different in spirit from the original Pioneer model that you started with?
Yeah, actually, that's the interesting thing is it's different in focus. The spirit is actually very much the same. I'm a really strong believer that great organizations are about the values and the principles that run behind them
Yeah.
rather than the products they run. So the product or the program or whatever, that's like a manifestation of those values, right?
Yeah.
So I often will say to people, right, like you may like a big company that makes lots of different things can sell off one of those things, it's still that company, right? So, from the perspective of Pioneer, when we think about what we were trying to do with creating the Global Problem Solving Institute, we're still focused on bringing people together from around the world. We're still focused on helping people develop their interests, not like find them like some needle in the haystack, and doing really, really rigorous undergraduate level work. The focus of it is different though, because the research institute is digging very deeply into one field. You're trying to actually spend a lot of time figuring out what is that one research question that you're going to pursue that's going to advance new knowledge in that field.
For sure.
The Global Problem Solving Institute is actually focusing on big, wicked, multidisciplinary problems. And how do we one of the things also that you'll see of like Pioneer and its values is we have eminent faith that young people in 14, 15, 16, 17 years old can do much more amazing work than they're given
See,
credit for. Totally, right? And so where this comes in is to say like when you think of a really nasty problem like climate change or artificial intelligence or access to clean water, like it just feels like so overwhelming to most people. And they say, okay, maybe I'll try to drive my car a little bit less, or maybe, but this is way above my pay grade. Actually, it's not. We want to actually teach students a way to understand these problems as systems, ways to think about and frameworks to actually build solutions that actually address these problems and to bring students together from around the world to work on them. So all those different aspects are the same, regardless of whether, in both the Research Institute and the Global Problem Solving Institute, the idea that you can do really high level stuff. It's just one's focusing on problem solving at a very broad level, and one is focusing on digging deep into a particular discipline.
Yep. And even like being the part of the GPSI program, I can for sure say that the professors, the mentors, they really did not like push us or like force us to know what exactly we want to do in the future. It was like researching. It was honestly an amazing research experience because they just opened up the opportunities, opened the doors for us.
Yeah.
So it was like whatever you want to do with this idea, you just do it. They gave us the freedom. And I honestly think that this is the main thing for the high schoolers to just give them the freedom to explore things that they really love. And also, my fourth question would be about um, we know that Pioneer Academics is not just another summer program. It's much more than that. It's global and it's rigorous, it's selective. And you have partnered with a lot of different colleges. And how do these partnerships work in practice? And how do they ensure that what students are doing isn't just like an enrichment? But it's truly recognized as an academic contribution.
Right. Well, let me actually tell you how that started.
Mhm.
We always were focused on kind of creating very high standards, quality, rigor in this work, right? We were strong believers that if we have that long-term goal in the end, that students would that the reputation of what Pioneer Academics was would kind of sing through versus, every other kind of pay-to-play thing that's out there. And so, um, one of our professors, before we ever had a college partnership, was so impressed with the students he worked with.
Really?
Yeah, he had worked with 3 or 4 students who went on to, Carnegie Mellon and some really Oxford and these really wonderful colleges. And that professor actually became a dean at Oberlin College, the dean of arts and sciences. He came to them and said, "I have this amazing pool of students, and we should get involved with this."
Yep.
So he built out that first partnership that we developed, and what it allowed us to do was to have access to all the undergraduate resources, like the libraries. And if you're doing like psychology research, you can get, institutional review board review,
That's amazing.
all those kinds of things, right? But the other thing was that we were able to learn from those partners how to do very high levels of oversight. And I think that it's not about just saying, oh, I got college credit for
Yeah.
this, right? Or can I transfer that college credit? It's about the fact that um, Oberlin College, for example, in our research institute, they have access to all of our students' research and their evaluations, and they actually review a lot of that and have to present it to their board. So that holds us to a very high standard.
Yeah.
And I think that we've learned a lot about how to set up syllabi and learning goals and all these different things from having great partners. The Global Problem Solving Institute then developed out a partnership with the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, so that all students who complete the Global Problem Solving Institute will get two credits from that, and they actually have an instructor of record who reviews all of that work. So it's really been beneficial to us to say, how do we take our game up to the next level?
Yeah. So you're really bonding the high school students with colleges too. So it was like another opportunity, an amazing opportunity too. And that would also lead to my next question, which is we know how fast and how, of course, like with the speed of a light, how AI and technology are totally changing, improving, developing. But I feel like Pioneer Academics really values the human relationships, the human connections, just like a professor and the students, the mentor and the mentee. So I feel like even with AI and technology developing so much, this is the main value and thing that Pioneer Academics wants to be there always. And it will also lead to my question, which is, how do you see the future of the academic exploration, especially for teens, for high schoolers, evolving in the next decade? And what do you think Pioneer is doing differently that others might be missing?
Hmm. So I think, when we think about how things are developed, there's a lot of AI is like the big
Yeah.
area of discussion, right? And I think most academics look at that as how do we avoid the catastrophe of cheating,
Yeah.
right? Of AI doing all the work, and those are very legitimate concerns. But I think that we want to be forward thinking. Academics wants to be forward thinking about how do we fit education and academics in the AI world? On top of that, there's a lot of trend towards personalized learning. There's a lot of trend towards global citizenship, and every school says they want to have
Yes.
global citizenship as part of our ideals. So what Pioneer does actually is really tries to think forward on what are the skills students are going to need in the future, regardless of what that career is. For example, what does AI not do really well? AI doesn't do the same job of helping you tell other people why your research is important, right?
Yeah.
Or helping you really think, really convince, persuade the population to be involved in these things. So we want to think about what are the critical skills for the future? Thinking about critical thinking, that's not going away. Thinking about collaboration, AI doesn't do that, right? Thinking about uh, um, planning, persuasion, critical reasoning, these different things. And then how do we reverse engineer opportunities to things that students are going to care about, right? So research isn't for everyone. Some students like to actually work on the big problem, and that's where the Problem Solving Institute comes in. Whatever it is, we want to actually think about how we are developing the future skills that students are going to need way beyond college, right?
Yeah.
And so even when we think about the teamwork in the Global Problem Solving Institute and how we run that, it's designed to be thought of as a sense of how do we de-risk teamwork so that you can actually enjoy working on a team in your first team experience, whereas everyone else is always like, oh my gosh, I have to work on a team. What if that student doesn't work as hard as I do, right? So these are the kinds of things we think about a lot.
Yeah, so Pioneer really gives a choice for students whether they would like to join something like GPSI to solve the global problems again,
Yeah.
or something like Pioneer Academics, the research, the start of it, where you can choose a topic and deeply really research about it, like an interest of yours. And we know how many extraordinary, unique students you have met worldwide. And what is a story, or maybe one student, or one research topic, or one breakthrough even that still motivates you and moves you? Something that reminded you why you started this in the first place.
You know, when we started, we were very, very small, and I was like the program coordinator.
Yeah.
Everyone was kind of involved in that, right? So when we started, boy, I can tell you that the very first couple students who were involved when we started, we were 4 students and 2 professors, right?
Uh-huh.
Which is really neat. And like actually trying to figure out how that works and watching those students experience uh, it brought you very close to their own success. So as we have developed and been able to bring that to other countries, my role has changed a lot where I'll actually have the opportunity to come to Kazakhstan and talk to students, but I'm not as much, directly involved in, the operational aspects of making their research successful and great. And I think that that changes the perspective, remembering where that was, but, I do, um if there's one student's story that really stood out to me, there was a young woman in the US who, was admitted to the research institute, and to try not to get emotional about this, but she had brain cancer, um, which was in remission, and, she did a she was actually working on forever plastics, looking at how plastics are kind of coming into the environment in our system. She was working with a professor from Williams College, and I didn't really know too much about it at this point, right? Because I knew we had that cohort, that area.
Yeah. But you were a little far from it.
Yeah, I'm not really involved in the students' work that much anymore. Um, and I got a letter from her mom that said that her cancer had returned and she had passed away. But she had written to me that the research work that she had done was one of the proudest accomplishments she had.
Oh.
So honestly, um, there are times when I think about all of the work our team does to try to just kind of stay above water and make sure we're hitting all of these sort of topic areas. And I think about young women like her who were so excited about what it meant to them. And I would say that keeps me going somewhat. Yeah.
Well, that is a very emotional story. But of course, and our last but not least question would also be kind of personal to the listeners also that are watching us today, and that really might think that Pioneer is something, it's very rigorous, it's very selective. And there might be students that might be thinking, oh, I think I might not be too good for this. Like I might not get in, right? So why should I even apply? So, but I feel like Pioneer, you really look for students not just with the perfect GPA, not just with the perfect extracurriculars, but it's honestly, you look for people that really have a light in them, that really want to research, that really want to explore. And if you could speak directly to a student listening right now in our main camera,
Sure.
maybe someone who doubts again that they're good enough for something like Pioneer or for some big programs, big projects, what would you say to them?
I think that, first of all, we're not believers that Pioneer is right for everybody. There are lots of great opportunities for you to find your special activity, co curricular activity, the things that really move and light you up. Pioneer does require a pretty high standard of communication and general academics, and we don't want a student to come into the institute and feel like either of the institutes they run and feel like, oh, this is way more than I can handle. But once we get past that general level, we are really looking for our admissions team really focuses on finding students who are excited about learning. You would not, you'll be quite surprised to know how much your desire as you discuss what you want to do in your essays or in your interviews, it matters so much to the impression of our admissions team because we're looking, frankly, for people who are willing to think big and change the world a little bit. And so, my biggest piece of advice is have faith in yourself. Think big, enjoy that opportunity to say, we live in a world right now where you can have an impact. We didn't always live in a world like that. And if you want to make the most of that, we want to hear it from you.
Thank you so much. And these are the values that Pioneer mostly holds, which is curiosity, exploring again. And I'm really glad about that. And how y'all can see every big thing starts small. It started just with 4 students and 2 professors.
Right. Yeah.
And now it's global. And you have students from over 50 countries, right?
Yeah.
And so, again, as Mr. Matthew said, think big, dream big, and everything will come on the right time. So thank you so much, Mr. Matthew, for joining us today, joining our Spectrum podcast. And I hope our listeners had a fun time too. And I'm pretty sure that this is the most educational podcast I have ever had. But again, I would like to say a big thanks to you and to our listeners. So see you in our next episode and goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.